So, we are going to analyze Ray Bradbury's The Shape of Things. And the first thing we would look for, obviously, is going to be our type of narration. Right away, he did not want to be a father of a small blue pyramid. That's going to be Peter Horn. So, we have a third person narrator narrating us Peter Horn's story here. And we also learn his conflict. He is the father of a small blue pyramid. This would be our exposition. If we did not know that this story was published in 1940, in the 1940s, we have highballs and cigarette smoking in the waiting room of a hospital. And if you're ever trying to figure out the setting of a story, here would be some dates. So in 1997, Bill Clinton would have made the executive order banning smoking in federal buildings or outdoor areas. In 1991, that is what made hospitals smoke free. So technically, we would know um, they were supposed hospitals became smoke free because of this law, the Joint Commission on Accreditation of Healthcare Organizations, that was passed in it was passed in 1991, but it made smoking eliminated in hospitals by 1993. So we know it has to be sometime before the 90s, and in this case, the 1940s. All right, so that's our exposition. Obviously, we can judge Peter Horn. So when you are reading literature, we can either say that Peter Horn could be characterized as insensitive because he wants to deny his own son because his son looks different. We could say he is judgmental, unkind, unloving, or you could say he's a realist. You could characterize him as being a realist because he realizes his son is going to have a really difficult life, and this situation has brought on a lot of hardship. However, you want to characterize him, as long as using evidence from the text. Our rising action begins here when Dr. Walcott is explaining to him what's happening. We also learn, okay, so Pi has that's what they're going to nickname the baby, Pi. He has 3 eyes, shaped like a pyramid. And this happens. Charlie must go behind it. He'll pop in the door. This would have been a comedian at the time. We didn't dare show your wife the shock. She mustn't be told about it now. That is, you wouldn't see this nowadays, where a woman who just gave birth and it's her child as well, information is being kept from her. That is definitely a time period situation. And then we have this idea of infanticide or euthanasia. Those would be our themes here. Themes surrounding infanticide or killing an infant after birth. That's what he's asking for here, which is obviously not good. And then you could also have this idea of euthanasia, which is only the strong should be breeding and producing. And if somebody has something wrong with them, they shouldn't be allowed to have children of their own. Or even in some cases, they're euthanized. This could be for people that are sick, terminally ill, but in this case, Peter is saying that his child should be euthanized because it looks different, which is obviously themes surrounding discrimination. Okay, so now Dr. Walcott is going to explain what is actually happening. So the child is fine, but it looks this way because it is in another dimension. It was born in a different dimension. And that would mean that inside his dimension, he is fine. He's still my kid. So now this is where we could have Horn coming to terms with this, and now he's saying he's going to raise Pi like his own and be a good father. And he needs to know that the boy is okay mentally. That's important. You could say this is ableism. He might look different, but his mind is okay. Um, this could be like a hierarchy to people with disabilities, and what they would deserve, how much love they deserve. You could analyze it that way. There's a lot of ways to analyze this story. You could do it as Pi is not born in a dimension. This is a story about a couple who had a disabled child, and the science fiction part is there to maybe ease some of the uncomfortable subject matter for the reader. You could argue that. Now, he's going to, but this, telling a woman she's giving birth not recognizable as human, it's not as clean as death. There's too much chance for shock. So, this is them totally concerned that this woman isn't going to be able to handle this, that she's weaker mentally than the men. You could say that's a feminist theory argument. Ooh, here is an interesting part of the story because the point of view switches to Pi. So we have a switch, and now we have baby looked upward. This is how Pi sees everyone. Pi sees everyone as shapes. And now, finally, days later, they're telling Polly. And it's Dr. Walcott that's telling her. She wants to know, she has one question. And we could definitely make a point to say how much different Polly's reaction is than Peter's. How does Polly's reaction differ from her husband Peter's? And you could say by a lot. She has a pretty normal reaction. In fact, it's kind of sad because she wants to blame herself for this. Now, they're going to bring Pi home. We're still in the rising action. Things start to get very difficult. And we could say that this shows the relationship, the stress that caring for a disabled child or loved one can cause on couples. So when they bring them home, okay, there are these instructions. So they're not allowed to have him around anyone. No one can ever see Pi because Dr. Walcott has this idea that he's going to be able to fix Pi or make Pi look like everyone else. So in the meantime, no one can see them, and it's supposed to take a year. So for 1 year, we're going to have Mrs. Horn totally isolated with Pi. And they're in this plane, took the copter. This could just describe our setting more. They're flying around. Obviously, people don't do that unless they're really, really wealthy. So this was Ray Bradbury's prediction that people would have helicopter cars. And then we have Polly. Obviously, from Polly's point of view, she seems to care more about Pi and how he feels and how he sees the world. And of course, the husband's just there assuring her that it's okay. Here we have Peter, his life really has not changed, except he is making sure he's home every night. Polly is not handling this well. Davenport's would be a couch, and sherry is a type of alcohol. So we have Polly coping not very well. And then we have Peter soundproofing the nursery. So your wife won't hear your baby crying. So she won't hear it. You could say that this is him. He also does not want to hear Pi crying. And so they make a soundproof door. They don't have any visitors. You can say their life is very isolated. But then Pi says, Daddy. And then, so this part, you can see the stress. Isn't it terrific? Even his voice is in the fourth dimension. Won't it be nice when he learns to talk later? We'll give him Hamlet's soliloquy to memorize. This is her, the offspring of James Joyce. Aren't we lucky? James Joyce would be a famous author. She's being sarcastic and mean here regarding Pi. We could say she's mad that she has a disabled child. Might be having some feelings of jealousy that she believes Pi is a dad first. That could be. All right, so now we're in 1969, but remember, Ray Bradbury wrote it in the 1940s, so he was writing his story set 20 years ahead of time. We would call this our climax. When, wait, so Peter's trying to see Pi, but he can't, obviously. So he starts drinking more as well. Now he comes home. So this is the big thing that happened in February. We would call this our climax or the point of no return. We have Polly drunk in the front yard, and all the neighbors are out looking. And then someone starts asking, "You'd better get your stuff ready." Wait, somebody had asked, "Come back, come back. Don't you want to see the baby?" She tells everyone her husband got it from Afghanistan, which is a country in the Middle East. So we know Peter travels for work. He slapped her again and again in their front yard. And then he calls and says it has to be tonight. So this here is our climax. The point of no return. The point of no return for the horns. Pi will be getting his operation. It's not really an operation. It's like I don't know. But that would be our climax. Everyone now knows that Pi looks the way he does. So, our following action is Walcott's going to tell them here that it's not exactly an operation. So, what he's been doing, he's tried to bring the baby out, but he has not had luck. But he found a way to solve the problem. The problem will be bringing them into Pi's dimension. We know what series of accidents, mechanical and electric, have forced Pi into this present state. We can reproduce accidents and stretches and bring him back to something else. Will I see my baby the way he really is if I go into this dimension? Then I want to go. We've only been in this office 5 minutes and already you're promising away the rest of your life. I'll be with my real baby. I won't care. And then, wait a minute. Here's Dr. Walcott. Okay, there will be no change that you will notice. You will both seem the same size and shape to one another. The pyramid will become a baby, however. You will have added an extra sense. You will be able to interpret what you see differently. But we won't turn into oblongs, and won't you, doctor, look like some geometrical form instead? Does a blind man who sees for the first time give up his ability to hear or taste? No, then all right. Stop thinking in terms of subtraction. Think of in terms of addition. You're gaining something. You lose nothing. You know what a human looks like, which is an advantage Pi doesn't have looking out from his dimension. Okay. So he says they gain nothing, or they gain something. They lose nothing. But then he goes on, you will be freaks. You'll have to lead a secluded life. It may be 10 years, 20. I won't recommend it to you. You may both develop psychoses as a result of feeling apart and different. Wouldn't you say that that's losing something? I feel like Dr. Walcott is most definitely not a very good doctor here. So now that is what he would do. Okay, wait. And so we have Pi talks the way through, he imitates the sound. He's awfully young. Things haven't got too set for him. There'll be a slight shock, but your odors will be the same, voices. Most of all, you'll be warm and loving. And then now they say, this seems like such a long way around. We want to go. I wish we could just have another kid and forget all about this one. That is not a very good thing. You could definitely use that quote to characterize Peter. This baby is the one that counts. I dare say Polly here wouldn't want any other. Would you, Polly? Besides, she can't have another. I didn't say anything before, but her first was her last. It's either this baby or none at all. So now we also find out that Polly is infertile. And Dr. Walcott just like, I don't know, didn't feel the need to tell her because why would you? This part's messed up. Polly is now infertile, and Dr. Walcott neglected to inform her of this entire time. That's crazy. You could almost that's a feminist criticism that the woman was not even told about her medical condition. Not good. And then we have It Simply Had to Be Pie. Here's her being guilty. To prove there was the evidence, the pyramid, to prove her guilt, it had to be Pie. I guess I can take it if she can, Horn said. I worked hard for a good many years now. It might be fun retiring and being an abstract for a change. I envy you, to be honest. I mind telling you that as a result of your being over there, you may very well write a volume of philosophy that will set Dewey, Bergen, or Hegel or any others on their ears. I might come over to visit you. So basically, this is him saying that this situation of being different will like inspire him to write a philosophical book. He only says it to Mr. Horn, of course. The power scream, the atoms, and then now our story ends. Suddenly he knew how it would be. It would be a great awe. They would live in the same White House. So now all of a sudden he like wants these things. He's gonna have a drink in his hand and a cigarette. And then there would be Pie running about, and the white oblong and the white rectangle would laugh and drink. That's how it would be. And now we have, well, Walcott. He did not move for a long while. He only watched. And the assistant came. They'll want to be alone a while. Come along. The white rectangle and the white oblong didn't even look up when the door closed. So they finished, and now they're going to live like Pie in this other dimension, and everyone will see them in that way. Wait, I had to point out the part about Mr. Walcott. Here. Walcott, stick your tongue out. Give me your wrist. Have you been drinking? So this is him yelling at her. Oh, yes, I will. When he tells her about Pie and what color he's supposed to be, right? He says, young lady, you better take a couple of these and come see me for a little chat. I don't like the way you're talking. So she's there with her child, and then he doesn't like her sarcastic comment, so he gives her pills, doesn't tell her what the pills are, and then criticizes her smoking and drinking, which, I mean, obviously those things aren't healthy, but he probably wouldn't have said anything to her about it if she didn't make the comment. So, definitely a feminist critique. This doctor was not very nice to to Mrs. Horn at all. And this would have been a literary analysis breakdown for Ray Bradbury's The Shape of Things.